So if you haven't seen the recent headlines as of December 2024, there is a food dye, red number 3, that the FDA is going back to re-review for the, I don't know how many times they've done this since 1969, but numerous times. They're going to go back and review it again, and they're talking about potentially banning this food dye within the next couple of weeks. And while a lot of people will see this as a win, and I also see this as a win, and I don't want to detract from that and, take away from the fact that this is a step in the right direction, but I also want to share my opinion on this and explain that while this is a win, this really just highlights how screwed up our food system is, and that's what I want to get to in this video. So if you're new to Apex, my name's Jacob, and this food dye, red number 3, is one of many food dyes that they use in our food, specifically hyper-processed food and prepackaged food products. And the problem with these food dyes is that they're petroleum-based, and you can pretty much assume that anything petroleum-based that's in our food is going to be pretty freaking detrimental to your health, because under no circumstances would we have, throughout all of history, consumed petroleum-based products in our diet. It is just not a natural food. And the only reason these food manufacturers put this stuff in the food is to entice consumers to buy it. And it's cheaper than the natural alternatives. So instead of using something like beet juice or cranberry juice or cherry juice or whatever else is red, they use a petroleum-based petrochemical. And these artificial food dyes, these synthetic food dyes, are linked to things like cancer. They're linked to behavioral disorders, especially in children, and that's a really bad thing considering these food dyes are usually used in products that are marketed towards kids because it's in things like cereal. Fruit Loops is a big one, Skittles, candies, breakfast foods, and pretty much anything that needs food coloring in there. They use these artificial food dyes, and these food dyes have been banned in numerous other countries because of the detrimental impacts that they have on human health. And that's where I start to see the negative side of this potential win, because this food dye should have never been allowed in our food in the first place. They allow over 10,000 artificial ingredients in foods here in the US that they do not allow in other countries. And in contrast to other countries, the European Union, for example, has only approved and authorized around 300 additives to be added to their food. So this really just highlights how screwed up our food system is, because the FDA allows these corporations to self-regulate. They come in there and they test these products using their own testing practices. They don't hire third parties, and they can say that we have recognized this food product or this ingredient or whatever it is as safe. And that's where the GRAS, generally recognized as safe, loophole comes in. It's because the FDA allows these companies to self-regulate, and they can lump all of those self-tested products, those self-tested food products and ingredients, they can lump those in under the GRAS loophole. And if you really think about this, it would be in these corporations' best interest to say that the food product is safe. Because if it's not safe, obviously they wouldn't put it in the food. But then third-party testing is done on a lot of these food products after they've been on the market, and people start to realize that they're not safe. And the FDA pushes back and says, well, no, we looked at the data, and we're going to say that this is safe. And in order for you to get this removed, it's going to require petitions, it's going to require a lot of pushback, and more importantly, it's going to require a lot of time. And time is something that we don't have when it comes to this stuff, because every day that goes by, every second that somebody buys this food and consumes it, is time that someone's health is getting negatively impacted from consuming these products that are not actually safe. And the idea that you can consume this stuff in moderation, it's going to be totally fine for you, these are products that should have never been allowed in food in the first place. It is not stuff we're meant to consume. None of this stuff is natural. It was never a part of our natural diet, and most of it is derived from or made from harmful chemicals. And when this stuff goes in our body, it doesn't just leave our bodies for the most part. Some of this stuff is bioaccumulative, and the more of it you consume, the more of an impact it's going to have on your health. So when it comes to stuff like this, the worst thing that we can do is just stand by and wait for the FDA or wait for the people in charge to regulate this stuff the way it should have been regulated in the beginning. The best thing that we can do for ourselves is not to buy this stuff. The reason it's put in our food and continues to be put in our food is because it's serving the exact purpose of the reason they put it in our food, which is to make it addictive and to make you want to buy it. That way you keep coming back and you keep buying it over and over and over again. If these companies and these corporations did not receive our money, they would not have the financial support to continue to engineer, make, and produce these disgusting toxic foods that are destroying the health of our nation. And that's what it boils down to. So if we really want to push back against this stuff, we don't need to sit back and wait for the FDA to regulate. We just need to say, you know what, enough's enough. We're sick and tired of being sick and tired. Let's get this stuff out of our food and let's stop buying it. A shift in the market as small as 5% is enough to make these people make a change overnight, just like that, because a lot of these companies and these corporations, they run on pretty small margins to begin with. So a market shift away from those foods as small as 5% is enough to put them in the hole.
You as consumers have a lot more power than you realize. Most of what we talked about today were top-down solutions of how we can work with government to help. But the fastest way to help is if consumers start boycotting with their wallet. I say this without exaggeration, that if any one of these public companies mentioned today, or any of the large companies that you know of, the big food companies, if they had just a 5% drop, just 5 in sales, if you had, all of you here, or hopefully there's some very, very, very large influencers listening, or celebrities, if any one of those people came out and said, do not buy U.S. Kellogg's cereal until they put in the same ingredients that they sell abroad, and that caused sales to decline by 5%, just 5, in 1 quarter, they would change this overnight.
And these companies and these corporations are not willing to let that happen, but even more importantly, their stakeholders are not going to allow them to lose money. So if that market shifts, they're going to go where the money goes. So if we shift our demand over to more natural foods and source our foods from places like local farms and ranches, local businesses, producers, and people we can actually trust with our health, that's where they're going to put all their attention. And they're going to start creating foods that are less toxic and that are more healthy. And that's all it boils down to. We don't need to wait for white knights to come save us. We don't need for these regulators to do the job that they were supposed to be doing decades ago. And we don't need to wait until our health has been completely destroyed. We hold the power for change now, and we always have, and we need to use that to hit these people where it hurts. And that is in their pocketbook. Now, if you're looking for places to source high quality nutrition from people you can trust, I built a farm map that is, to my knowledge, the largest animal-based directory on the web. There's over 7,200 listings on there. Please feel free to use that, find a local producer or distributor in your area, and source your food from them. Let's stop supporting these industries that do not have our best interest in mind.